everyone! You're probably looking at me and thinking, DJ, why are you making a video right now? You are not in the right headspace to be making a video right now. And you are right. The reason I'm making this video is because a few days ago I found a really bad tweet from a flat earther presenting this model about how the flat earth would work. And this model is so bad that even though I already made a short about it, it has been in my head for days, and it's literally kept me awake at night thinking about all the ways in which this model doesn't make sense. So, first I'm going to show you the short that I made, quickly debunking this video, and then I'm going to talk about all the other ways I've worked out that this model doesn't make sense. Let's go on to the short first.
We have a new contender for the worst flat earth model here today, brought to us by this flat earther named Luke on Twitter. Now Luke claims to have a model that is not nonsense, that explains everything about how the flat earth would work, and this model shows the day and night in Antarctica and the Arctic being synchronous, which they aren't, and most interestingly, it doesn't show either of them undergoing perpetual daylight in summer or perpetual nighttime in winter, which we know happens in the real Arctic and Antarctic. I know lots of people who have been to the Antarctic because I used to work at the Antarctic Research Center, and they will all attest to the fact that it is perpetually night in the winter. This model doesn't do that. This model is wrong and stupid and bad.
Now first, I want to point out that I live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Aotearoa, New Zealand is shown by this map as being behind the moon, where the moon spins around the Earth. So based on this, we in Aotearoa, New Zealand should never be able to see a full moon, right? Except we do see a full moon, because this model is plainly wrong. You know what else is wrong? The fact that the sun and the moon are consistently in the same position relative to one another as they orbit one another over the Earth. Under this model, what we should have is a gradual transition of phases of the moon across a single night that will be quite variable in appearance depending on where you are in a planet. And you would expect the exact same phases of the moon every single night because the position between the sun and the moon is always the same. There's also no way for the Earth to get in the way between the sun and the moon, or any way for the moon to get between the sun and the Earth. So there is no way to get an eclipse in this model. So we already have a whole bunch of different ways that we can easily debunk this model without even using science. And it gets worse! You see, in this model, both the sun and the moon are consistently above the Earth-shaped disk, which creates a serious problem, because we can clearly see at the sunrise and the sunset, the sun rising above the horizon and going below the horizon. And we also know that the moon does this too. So how can that happen on this flat Earth model, wherein both the sun and the moon are constantly above the horizon? You can't have this. I've seen other flat Earth models attempt to have the sun and the moon orbiting vertically so that it makes sense, and I've even seen one very bizarre flat Earth model in which the sun and the moon rise in and out of the sea to try to make this make sense. But trying to have it so that they're both above the Earth at all times means that it's completely impossible for either of them to go over the horizon. All we should see is the sun getting bigger and smaller and the moon getting bigger and smaller as we transition from day to night, according to this model. But that's not what happens. And then if you think about this even further, you have to find yourself asking the question, how did day and night even work on this model? The reason that we have day and night is that the sun isn't, facing the side of the Earth you're on at night. But in this Earth, the sun is always above the flat disk. So why is it that it is dark around the moon? You also have to ask the question of why is it that there are dark areas much closer to the sun than light areas which are trailing off in the distance? This only makes sense if you consider that the moon in this model is emitting darkness in the same way that the sun is emitting light. Now, I've seen flat earthers claim that the moon is itself a light, which makes no sense because you can see phases of the moon, but the moon emitting darkness? This makes no sense because darkness can't be emitted. Darkness isn't a wave of photons in the way light is. It's the blocking of those photons, or at the very least they're spreading out to the point there's not very much of them. Darkness is the absence of light, not the opposite of light. So you can't have sort of anti-light emitting moon. That's not how physics works. And now it's time for some maths. You see, the sun in this model is shown to have roughly the same diameter as the Atlantic between Central South America and Northern Africa. So that is a distance of roughly 2,860 kilometers-ish. So, can we use this distance to back calculate the distance between the sun and the Earth on this model? Yes, I just went outside with my clinometer and measured the distance between my flat and the sun, and burned my eyes out in doing so because it was around 80 degrees. Now, obviously that's just this specific time of day, but we can use this to calculate the distance between the sun and the Earth at this time of day using some really basic trigonometry, which I have presented on the screen here. This takes barely any time at all, it's just primary school level maths. Based on my calculations, the sun in this model would have to only be between 1,800 and 1,900 kilometers away from Earth. Now, NASA have calculated the temperature of the sun to be around 5,500 degrees C around the outside of the sun. So we have something in this model which is 5,500 degrees at its exterior, warming the entire planet that is less than 2,000 kilometers above the surface of the planet. And we know that the sun does solar flares, which are considerably more distance than that. So, no matter how you look at this, the sun, if this model were correct, would cook the Earth. Like, everything on planet Earth should be incinerated by this sun. And yet, Luke, this flat earther, told FTFE that this is the model that explains everything about flat Earth. This is the only non-nonsense flat Earth model. And yet every single conceivable thing about it makes no sense at all. Just like every other flat Earth model. Thank you very much for watching this video. Huge shout out to my wonderful Patreon supporters, Glenn Collins, Jean and Eric Feenstra. Your support really means a lot right now. To anyone who doesn't know, I've been going through a lot at the moment. In addition to that, I've got quite sick recently, and my work is basically forcing me to move cities, so I could really do with some more support on Patreon right now, if that's okay, just to help me with all of the move and everything. Life has become very challenging recently, but I really appreciate all of the support that you guys have been giving me. My next video, actually definitely for really reals, will be the Jordan Peterson debunk video next time. I know I've been saying that'll be the next video for months at this point. It's been very hard to focus on working on videos at the moment, as much as I've really been trying to. But my next one will be that. After that, you guys are able to vote on what video you want next from this channel. Options include a video on prehistoric planet again, some more videos on dinosaurs, or videos on meltology, the bizarre pseudoscience conspiracy theory. Whatever you want. If you want to subscribe to Patreon, you're able to vote on it. So feel free to get on and do that if you want to. No pressure though, and in any case, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you very much for watching.